He never expected his peaceful Saturday morning to shatter with a knock that would change everything. Not from one aunt, but from both of them. And both carrying the same unbelievable request. Nathan Hale had always lived a quiet, steady life in the small town of Willow Creek. He liked calm mornings, predictable routines, and coffee brewed strong enough to wake the entire county. But that morning, his world shifted before the coffee even finished dripping. He opened the door and froze. His Aunt Margaret stood on the porch, clutching her purse like it held her last hope. Right beside her stood Aunt Elaine, arms crossed, eyes red as if she had cried all night. The two sisters hadn't willingly been in the same place for more than 10 years. Nathan stepped back, stunned. Both entered without waiting for an invitation, as if the cold wind behind them pushed them forward. Nathan shut the door slowly, his mind spinning. He had never seen them like this. Desperate. Nervous. Almost afraid. He guided them into the living room, where sunlight fell across the hardwood floor. Margaret sat stiffly at the edge of the couch. Elaine paced near the window, her breath uneven. Nathan cleared his throat. "What's going on?" Neither answered. Margaret opened her mouth, then closed it. Elaine turned around sharply, folding her arms tighter. Finally, Margaret spoke in a voice barely louder than a whisper. "We need your help. Both of us." Nathan sank into the armchair. "Help with what?" Elaine stopped pacing. "With something only you can do." Their words prickled across his skin. Nathan had no idea what they meant. He was just an ordinary guy, working at the county library, living a modest life. What could possibly require both his dramatic aunts to show up together? Margaret looked at Elaine, almost asking permission. Elaine nodded stiffly, as if agreeing to share a secret she'd carried too long. Margaret inhaled shakily. "It's about your mother." Nathan's heart jolted. His mother, Anna, passed away when he was 16 years old. He rarely heard anyone speak of her anymore. The memory was too painful, too delicate. Elaine and Margaret usually avoided the topic, as if afraid of reopening old wounds. Nathan leaned forward. "What about her?" Margaret's eyes glistened. "She left something behind. Something we kept from you." He stared, unsure he had heard correctly. Elaine's voice softened, losing its usual sharp edge. "And it's time you knew." Nathan swallowed hard. "Knew what?" Neither aunt answered immediately. The room filled with a heavy silence, the kind that makes the air feel warmer and the floorboards seem to creak louder. Then Margaret finally whispered, "You weren't supposed to find out like this. But something happened this week. Something we can't ignore." Nathan's pulse thudded in his ears. "What happened?" Elaine took a step closer to him. "A man came looking for your mother." Nathan froze. "That's impossible," he said. "She passed away almost 20 years ago." Elaine shook her head. "He said he knew her. That she made a promise to him. And then he gave us a letter." Nathan felt the world tilt, a slow dizzy sensation spreading through him. "A letter? From who?" Margaret reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out a small sealed envelope. The paper looked old but well kept, the edges carefully protected. "It's in her handwriting," Margaret said. "We compared it. We know it's hers." Nathan stared at the envelope. The familiar loops and soft curves of the script struck him like a punch to the chest. He hadn't seen that handwriting in years. He remembered it from birthday cards, school notes, and the short messages she used to slide into his lunchbox. But this was something she never meant to give him while she was alive. His voice cracked. "Why didn't you show me this earlier?" Elaine closed her eyes briefly. "Because we didn't know it existed until now. The man delivered it 2 days ago." Nathan tried to steady his breathing, but emotion pressed into his ribs. Margaret placed the envelope on the coffee table as if setting down something fragile. "He said it was time. That you would understand why." Nathan stared at it, unable to move. He didn't want to touch it. He didn't want to know what it said. He wanted to rewind the morning to when his life still made sense. But he also couldn't look away. Elaine clasped her hands together tightly. "We came here because we need you to open it. We need to know what she left behind. What she wanted to say." Nathan shook his head slowly. Why would she send a letter 20 years later? How is that even possible? Margaret blinked back tears. That's what scares us. Nathan pressed his palms against his knees. He felt the truth pressing from all sides, the aunt's fear, his mother's hidden message, the stranger who carried it. He reached for the envelope. His fingers brushed the paper, and a rush of memory overwhelmed him. His mother's laugh. Her perfume. Her warm voice reading him a story before bed. He pulled his hand back suddenly. Elaine exhaled shakily. Nathan, whatever she wrote, we can't face it alone. Nathan looked from one aunt to the other. Two women who once couldn't stand to be in the same room now sat united in fear and uncertainty. Something in the air felt charged. Something deeper than memories or grief. He took a breath, slow and steady. I'll open it, he said. But before I do, tell me everything you know. Every detail. Margaret nodded. We will. Elaine sat beside her sister, the two of them quiet now, preparing to reveal secrets buried for decades. Nathan stared at the envelope again, the weight of the moment pressing into him. Whatever waited inside that letter was about to change everything. And he wasn't sure he was ready. The room seemed to dim as the truth clawed its way closer. Then Margaret whispered the words that sent a chill through him. Nathan, your mother wasn't who you think she was. The sentence echoed, hollow and haunting. And Nathan felt his world begin to crack. Nathan sat frozen, the words circling him like a bitter cold wind. Your mother wasn't who you think she was. He felt the sentence land inside him, heavy and unwelcome. Aunt Margaret and Aunt Elaine watched him as if waiting for the world to break open beneath his feet. Nathan steadied his breathing. Start from the beginning, he said quietly. Please. Elaine looked at Margaret, then spoke first, her voice low and unsteady. Your mother, she wasn't just our sister. She was someone people looked for. Someone people watched. Nathan frowned. Watched for what? She worked at the community garden and volunteered at the school. She was the quietest person in town. Elaine shook her head slowly. You knew the gentle parts of her. The loving parts. But she had another life long before Willow Creek. A life she spent years trying to leave behind. Nathan leaned back, his pulse picking up. What kind of life? Margaret clasped her hands so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Your mother used to help people disappear. Nathan blinked. I'm sorry, what does that mean? Elaine stepped in, her voice a little firmer. She helped protect people who were in danger. People who needed new identities. New cities. Clean starts. The words hit Nathan like cold water. You're saying she was involved in something illegal? No, Elaine said quickly. Nothing criminal. Nothing that would hurt anyone. She helped victims. People escaping unsafe situations. People who had no one left to turn to. Margaret added softly. She saved people, Nathan. More than we ever knew. But it came with danger. People trusted her with secrets. Some of those secrets followed her for years. Nathan stared at them, struggling to absorb their words. You're telling me my mother was some kind of protector? A guardian? Elaine hesitated. In a way, yes. But it wasn't simple. And it wasn't safe. The room grew quieter, almost too still, like it was listening. Nathan rubbed his hands together. So why would someone bring a letter 20 years after she passed? Why now? Margaret exhaled shakily. That's what we were trying to understand. She rose and walked to the window, staring out at the bare trees swaying lightly in the cold wind. 2 days ago, she said slowly, a man knocked on my door. He looked exhausted. Like he'd been running for days. He asked for Anna Hale. He insisted it was urgent. Elaine nodded. He came to my house too. Same night. Same words. He knew things about your mother that no stranger should know. Nathan felt tension coil in his stomach. What did he look like? Margaret's brow furrowed. He was in his 50s. Grey hair. Kind eyes, but worn out. Like someone who has lived too long with fear. Elaine added. And he carried a small black notebook. He wouldn't let us see inside it. Nathan stared at the floor, trying to fit these new pieces into the image of the woman he grew up with. His mother, who tucked blankets around him during thunderstorms. His mother, who planted sunflowers every spring because she said brightness should always return. His mother, who never raised her voice, never ran from anything, yet apparently hid a past so deep he'd never even glimpsed an edge of it. Elaine stepped closer. The man said the letter was something she prepared in case someone ever came back looking. Margaret returned to the couch, her expression pained. He said she asked him to keep it safe. To hold it until the moment she couldn't protect her, or you, anymore. Nathan felt the breath leave him. "Protect me from what?" he whispered. Neither aunt answered. Neither seemed to know. The envelope on the table sat like a small, waiting storm. Nathan reached toward it again, but stopped short. Emotions tumbled inside him, fear, curiosity, grief he thought he had buried years ago. Elaine broke the silence. "There's more." Nathan looked up sharply. "What more?" Margaret exchanged a troubled look with her sister before speaking. "The man, he told us someone else is looking for the letter. Someone who didn't want it to reach you." The words chilled Nathan's spine. "Who?" he asked. Elaine shook her head. "He didn't say. Only that your mother tried to protect someone years ago, and that protection may not have held." Nathan swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "But why me? Why now?" Margaret's voice trembled. "He said you were the last person she trusted. The one she believed could decide what comes next." Nathan forced himself to inhale slowly, trying to anchor himself in the room. He looked down at the envelope again, then picked it up. The paper felt delicate, its weight both featherlight and unbearably heavy. His name was written across the front. Not printed. Not typed. Handwritten. Just like every birthday note she ever left for him. Nathan's chest tightened. Elaine sat forward. "If this letter answers anything, we need you to read it. Before anyone else comes looking." Margaret nodded, though fear flickered in her eyes. "Your mother trusted you with this. Even after all these years. Whatever she wrote, it's something she couldn't say aloud." Nathan ran his thumb along the edge. He could almost imagine her sitting at the kitchen table, candle burning low, pen in hand. Her face calm, her expression gentle, but her heart carrying a weight she didn't share. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. Then he slowly broke the seal. The soft crack of the paper echoed through the room. He unfolded the letter with trembling hands. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Dear Nathan." His breath caught. He read the words silently at first, his eyes tracking each line carefully. With every sentence, his expression shifted from confusion to disbelief to something deeper. Something that reached down into old memories and twisted them gently, painfully. Margaret leaned forward. "What does it say?" But Nathan didn't answer. He couldn't. He reread the final lines again, his throat tightening. Elaine's voice cracked. "Nathan." He lowered the letter slowly, his face pale, eyes wide. "She knew," he whispered. "She knew someone would come back. She knew this day would happen." Margaret covered her mouth. "What did she tell you?" Nathan looked toward the window, as if expecting someone to appear on the other side of the glass. His voice trembled when he spoke. "She left something behind. Something she hid. And she wants me to find it." Elaine's breath hitched. "What did she hide?" Nathan looked at both aunts, fear shining through him. "She hid a name." Margaret whispered. "A name? Whose name?" Nathan clutched the letter, his voice barely audible. "My father's." The room fell silent, heavy with disbelief. Nathan stood slowly, as if the ground itself felt unsteady. And then he whispered the last line of the letter. "She said that if I find him, everything will change." The words hovered in the air like a distant storm ready to break. Nathan stood in the middle of the living room like the world had suddenly tilted beneath him. The letter trembled between his fingers. Neither aunt spoke. They watched him with the kind of worry that says they feared this moment long before he was even born. A name. His father's name. Hidden by his mother for reasons she never had the chance to explain in person. He sank down into the armchair again, trying to breathe evenly. Aunt Margaret wiped at her eyes. "Nathan, Sweetheart, are you sure that's what she meant? Nathan nodded, his voice low and strained. She wrote it clearly. She said she hid his name because she needed to protect him. And protect me. Elaine moved closer, her face pale. Did she explain who he was? No, Nathan whispered. She only said that finding him would answer everything. The three of them sat in a heavy stillness. The letter rested in Nathan's lap, the ink faded in some places, the edges soft from time. It felt like holding a piece of his childhood. And a warning from beyond it. Margaret cleared her throat. Do you think this man, the one who came to us, knew about your father? I don't know, Nathan said. But he must have known something. Otherwise, why come now? Elaine folded her arms again, though this time it looked more like she was hugging herself than expressing irritation. Nathan, did she say where to start? Nathan lifted the letter and stared at a single line he had read at least 5 times. He read it aloud, his voice soft. You'll find the first clue in the place where you and I last said goodbye. Margaret gasped. The hospital. Nathan shook his head. No. She didn't say the place where she passed. She said the place we last said goodbye. Elaine frowned. That wasn't the hospital. Nathan shook his head again, memories slowly resurfacing, memories he hadn't touched in years. It was the garden behind the church, he said quietly. She asked me to help her plant winter flowers that day. She knew she was getting weaker. That was the last afternoon we spent together outside the house. Margaret pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. She knew you'd remember. After all these years. Nathan nodded, emotions pulling at him from every direction. Elaine slowly sat down across from him. There's something else you should know. Something we didn't tell you before because we thought it didn't matter anymore. Nathan looked up sharply. What is it? Elaine hesitated, as if choosing each word carefully. Your mother, she wasn't alone that day in the garden. Nathan's brow furrowed. What do you mean? I didn't see anyone. Margaret interjected softly. You didn't, because she made sure you were busy planting. But someone came to speak to her. A man we didn't recognize. Nathan's heartbeat kicked up. What kind of man? A stranger, Margaret whispered. He only stayed a few minutes. We watched from the kitchen window. They argued softly. She cried. And when he left, she looked relieved, but also afraid. Nathan's hands tightened around the letter. Did she ever say who he was? No, Elaine said. She wouldn't answer any questions. She told us only that he came to warn her about something. Nathan stood abruptly, pacing the room. This stranger, do you think he could have been connected to my father? Margaret looked uncertain. It's possible. But we don't know anything for sure. Nathan exhaled shakily. He ran his fingers through his hair, trying to pull together a story that had been hidden from him his entire life. A hidden father. A stranger at the garden. A letter delivered 2 decades late. And a mother who spent years helping others disappear. Nothing made sense. Elaine watched him with a softness he didn't often see from her. Nathan, you don't have to do this alone. But Nathan shook his head slowly. I think she meant for me to find this on my own. She gave me the first clue, not the answer. He glanced at the letter again. She knew I'd ask questions. But she trusted me to find the truth. Margaret looked down at her hands. Then the garden is where you should go. Nathan nodded. I'm going tonight. Elaine stood. Tonight. Nathan, it's already darkening outside. And we don't know if someone else is looking for the same clue. That's exactly why I can't wait, he said. If someone else wants this letter, or what comes after, I can't risk them getting there first. Margaret's voice trembled. Let us come with you. Please. Nathan paused. He looked at both of them, 2 women who had been constant in his life, even when they disagreed on everything else. They had shown up that morning terrified, but united. And they were still here now. He nodded slowly. All right. You can come. The relief on their faces was unmistakable. They gathered their coats as the last of the afternoon light faded. The drive to the old church was quiet, the kind of quiet filled with unsaid fears. Nathan watched the town pass by in soft winter colors, snow-dusted roofs, quiet streets, the distant glow of porch lights flickering on as night settled in. By the time they reached the church, the sky was dark, lit only by the soft glow of a lamppost at the edge of the parking lot. Nathan stepped out, the cold air brushing against his face. The garden behind the church was small and quiet, half covered in frost. The wooden benches were worn, the flower beds bare except for the remnants of late-season blooms. Nathan walked slowly to the spot where he remembered kneeling beside his mother, his hands covered in dirt, her voice telling him how winter flowers held more strength than summer ones. He knelt in the same place now. His breath misted in the cold air. His heart pounded. Margaret and Elaine hovered a few steps behind him. Nathan brushed aside a layer of frost and pushed his fingers into the soil. Nothing. He dug a little deeper. Still nothing. Then his fingertips hit something solid. A small metal box. Margaret gasped. Elaine brought a hand to her chest. Nathan pulled it out carefully, brushing dirt from its surface. It was old, rusted around the edges. His mother had buried this. For him. His hands shook as he opened the lid. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Not his mother's handwriting. A different handwriting. Sharp. Precise. A man's. Nathan unfolded it slowly. Elaine leaned closer. What does it say? Nathan read the single line aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. Your father is alive. And he's looking for you. A cold rush swept through him, so sudden it stole his breath. Margaret whispered. Alive. Nathan's pulse hammered. And then he noticed something else. Another line at the bottom. He read it, and his entire body tightened. Find me before they do. Nathan looked up sharply at his aunts, fear and urgency battling inside him. The night seemed suddenly darker. The garden seemed suddenly smaller. The world seemed suddenly full of eyes watching from the shadows. And somewhere out there, his father was waiting. Nathan stared at the note in his hand, the cold air tightening around him like an invisible grip. Alive. His father was alive. And he wanted Nathan to find him. Margaret touched Nathan's shoulder. Sweetheart, this doesn't make sense. Why would he wait all these years? Elaine stepped closer, scanning the shadows around the garden as if expecting someone to step out. And who are they? Why would anyone be after him? Or after you? Nathan folded the note carefully, though his hands trembled. I don't know. But my mother clearly did. He looked down at the rusted box again, feeling the weight of years compacted into one moment. His father wasn't gone. His mother hadn't forgotten him. And every hidden memory now felt like a warning disguised as love. Nathan took a slow breath and straightened. We need to get back to the house, he said. I need to think. And we shouldn't stay out here in the open. Both aunts nodded without argument. The three of them hurried back to the car, the cold wind snapping at their coats. Margaret drove while Nathan sat in the back seat, clutching both letters like they were lifelines. The streets were darker than usual, quieter too. Or maybe it just felt that way because everything inside Nathan was changing. When they reached the house, Elaine locked the door behind them and pulled the curtains shut. Margaret exhaled shakily. I can't believe Anna kept all this from us. Nathan looked at her gently. She kept it from everyone, not just you. Elaine sank into the armchair, rubbing her forehead. She must have been terrified back then. Terrified enough to hide a name from her own son. Nathan set the notes on the table. I think she was trying to protect both of us. But something must have happened recently to bring all this back. The house felt smaller than before, filled with tension and old ghosts stirring. Nathan unfolded the second note again. The handwriting was firm, deliberate, someone who didn't waste words. His father. His throat tightened at the thought. He had spent his entire life imagining the man as a ghost, a shadow, a story without a beginning or end. But now the story had stepped into the light. Elaine watched him quietly. What's going through your mind? Nathan shook his head slowly. A lot. Too much. I don't know who he is, or why he left, or why he never tried to find me until now. Margaret's voice softened. What if he did try? What if your mother kept him away? For a reason she couldn't explain. Nathan didn't answer. He didn't want to picture his mother as someone who hid love from him. But he also hadn't imagined her burying a secret in a winter garden. He looked at the letters again. His mother's words gentle and warm. His father's sharp and urgent. Two worlds he never knew existed, suddenly colliding in his hands. Elaine spoke again, more carefully this time. "Nathan, what are you thinking of doing?" He didn't hesitate. "I'm going to find him." Margaret closed her eyes briefly, as if she knew he would say that. "I figured you would. But do you even know where to start?" Nathan studied the second note. No address. No location. Just a message. Then he noticed something he hadn't before. A faint watermark in the corner of the paper. A symbol. A lighthouse. Nathan's heart kicked. "I know this," he said. "There's only one place in Willow Creek with a lighthouse symbol. The old motel off Route 7. Elaine stiffened. "That run-down place near the cliffs. Nathan, that motel has been half empty for years. You can't go there alone." "I'm not going to wait," he said quietly. "If he left this clue, he wants me to find him. And if someone else is looking for him, I have to move first." Margaret gripped the edge of the table. "Please be careful." Nathan gave a small nod, grabbed his coat, and stepped toward the door. Elaine stood. "Hold on. If you're going, we're going with you." Nathan turned. "No. I can't put you two in danger. If something happens." "Stop right there," Elaine snapped, voice trembling. "If Anna trusted us with this, then we're not leaving you alone. Your family." Nathan swallowed hard. He knew arguing wouldn't change anything. He nodded. Minutes later, they were back in the car, heading toward the old coastline. The moon cast a pale glow over the cliffs as the motel came into view, a small, weathered building with peeling paint and flickering lights. Nathan's heart pounded. They parked beside the empty office. No cars. No voices. But a faint glow seeped from one of the rooms at the far end. Room 12. Nathan stepped out first. The gravel crunched under his boots. The night felt colder here, sharper. Margaret held onto Elaine's arm as they followed him. Nathan approached room 12 slowly. The door was slightly ajar. He glanced at his aunts. Both nodded. He pushed the door open gently. Inside, the room was dim. A single lamp glowed on the bedside table. The air smelled faintly of salt water and old carpet. And then Nathan froze. Someone had been here recently. A half-empty glass of water on the nightstand. A jacket draped over the chair. A notebook lying open on the bed. Nathan stepped inside cautiously. The notebook was filled with handwritten notes, sketches, and pages torn out of newspapers. And on one page, his name was written in bold letters. Nathan's breath caught. Elaine whispered behind him. He was here, not long ago. Nathan moved closer to the table, scanning the chaotic markings on the pages. Maps. Dates. Circles. Warnings. Margaret pointed at the floor. "Nathan, look." A key lay near the bed, attached to a small metal tag engraved with a number. 17. Nathan picked it up. Before he could speak, the room suddenly felt colder. The lamp flickered. And outside, a car engine roared into the parking lot. Nathan stiffened. Elaine grabbed his arm. "Someone's here." Nathan looked toward the window. Headlights flooded across the motel walls. Margaret whispered, her voice trembling with fear. "Nathan, someone else is looking for him." The car door slammed outside. Footsteps approached. Nathan's heart pounded against his ribs as he clutched the key in his hand, unsure whether to stay or run. And then he heard a voice outside the door. A man's voice. Low. Determined. "Close. Stay inside," he whispered back to his aunts. The footsteps stopped right outside room 12. And then, a sharp knock echoed through the room. 3 slow knocks. Each one heavier than the last. Nathan's breath caught. The voice outside spoke again. "Nathan, open the door." A pause. "I know why you're here." The room fell silent, thick with fear and anticipation. And Nathan's fingers tightened around the metal key, his only clue, his only leverage, his only connection to a man he had never met. His father. Or someone trying to reach him first. The 3 knocks hung in the air, each one echoing through Nathan's chest. His heart thudded so hard it almost drowned out the wind outside. Aunt Margaret stiffened behind him. Aunt Elaine clutched her arm, eyes wide, breath shallow. Nathan didn't move. He didn't trust his legs to carry him forward. He didn't trust his voice to stay steady. He didn't trust the silence waiting outside the door. But the voice came again, low and urgent. "Nathan, I don't have much time." Nathan's pulse skidded. That voice held something familiar in a way that didn't belong to memory, but to instinct. A tone he had never heard before yet somehow recognized. Margaret whispered, "It might be him." Elaine whispered back, "It might not." Nathan swallowed hard and stepped forward. He pressed his palm to the door but didn't open it yet. "Who are you?" he called out, voice tight but steady enough. The man outside exhaled, the sound muffled by the wood between them. "Someone who owes you 20 years of answers." Nathan's breath hitched. Before he could speak again, the footsteps outside shifted. A car door slammed somewhere farther in the parking lot. Another engine. Another presence. The man outside stiffened. "Nathan, you need to trust me. They're here." Margaret gasped. Elaine's grip on Nathan's arm tightened. "Who is here?" Nathan demanded. "People who've been chasing me for decades," the voice said. "And now they know you exist." Nathan's stomach twisted. Every fear he'd pushed aside since the moment that letter arrived came crashing back. Elaine leaned close to Nathan's ear. "Do not open that door." But Nathan could hear something shifting outside. The soft crunch of gravel. A second set of footsteps approaching. The man's voice sharpened. "Nathan, now." Nathan's mind raced. The buried box. The desperate letters. The warnings. The motel chosen as a hiding place. The urgency in every word his father left behind. He unlatched the door. Margaret gasped. "Nathan, wait." He pulled it open only a crack. And there he was. A man in his late 50s, grey hair brushing his temples, eyes deep-set and tired but bright with something burning behind them. His face was lined, worn by years and wind and fear. But there was a familiarity in the shape of his jaw, the curve of his brow, the gentleness that flickered in his expression. Nathan didn't need a DNA test. He felt it in his bones. "Dad," he whispered. The man's eyes softened. He looked at Nathan the way someone looks when they've spent half a lifetime imagining a moment they never believed they'd get. "Yes," he said quietly. "I'm your father." For a heartbeat, the world stopped. Nathan felt everything all at once: shock, ache, grief, longing. Years of questions crashing into one moment. But before he could speak again, a car door slammed hard. Voices shouted from across the lot. Nathan's father snapped his head toward the sound. "They found me." Nathan's breath caught. "Who?" "No time," his father said sharply. "Give me the key." "The one from the room." Nathan hesitated. "Why? What's in room 17? His father met his eyes with a look that felt both urgent and pleading. "The truth your mother died protecting." Elaine breathed in sharply. Margaret stepped back, her hand covering her mouth. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out the key. Metal. Cold. A small weight that suddenly felt enormous. Just then, 2 figures appeared at the edge of the parking lot, moving fast. Men in dark coats, steps purposeful. His father's expression hardened. "Nathan, go. Take your aunts. Get in your car and drive to Route 9. There's a cabin behind the old ranger station. The lock is broken, you won't need a key. Wait for me there." Nathan stared, torn between questions and the reality closing in around them. "Go," his father said again, voice firm but full of something warmer underneath, something that felt like care, or regret, or love finally being spoken in urgency. "What about you?" Nathan asked. His father straightened, his expression turning guarded and resolute. "I've been running for 20 years. I can handle a little longer." "Dad." His father placed a hand on the door, eyes softening with something that pierced Nathan's chest. You look just like her when you're worried, he whispered. His voice cracked. Just like Anna. Nathan's breath tightened. But footsteps pounded closer. His father stepped back into the shadows. Go now. Nathan closed the door in one swift motion. Car, he said, turning to his aunts. Now. Margaret trembled, but she nodded. Elaine held Nathan's arm as they rushed outside, keeping low, sticking to the darkest parts of the parking lot. Nathan unlocked the car with shaking hands. The engine choked once before catching. He pulled onto the road just as two unfamiliar vehicles screeched into the motel lot behind them. Elaine twisted in her seat, whispering, "Oh God, they really were coming." Nathan gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles ached. "I'm not letting them near him. Or us." They drove into the night, heading toward the forest roads that led out of Willow Creek. The world felt colder, but also clearer than it had all day. Nathan had a father. A living father. A father who wanted to protect him. A father who had spent years in hiding for reasons still buried in shadows. A father who'd said he looked like his mother. Something warm flickered in Nathan's chest, cutting through the fear. The cabin appeared after several winding turns, a small structure tucked between trees, dark and still. They slipped inside and locked the door. Nathan felt the silence settle around them. Margaret stepped closer to him. What happens now? Nathan looked at the key in his hand, the key to room 17. The key to whatever his mother died to protect. We wait, he said softly. For him. Elaine looked uneasy. And if he doesn't come? Nathan stared at the dim outline of the trees outside the window. He will, Nathan said. I know he will. Because now there was finally something worth coming back to. And Nathan wasn't giving up until every truth was brought into the light. He sat down, the key warm in his palm. And in the quiet cabin, with fear lingering but hope flickering stronger than ever, Nathan waited for the man who had just stepped out of the shadows and claimed the one title Nathan thought he'd never hear spoken again. Father. The end.